I was told Arte Moreno met with the general manager and told him, let's go all in. Let's roll the dice. Let's make these deals. Let's turn down any trade proposal for Ohtani. At the end of the day, baseball people and the national guys are reporting there have been 7 different trade offers for Ohtani. That includes stuff from the Yankees, obviously what's gone out of Dodger Stadium. The latest were Baltimore and Tampa got into the mix because they got really deep farm systems. Seattle was also in the mix. The Angels, after a week of deliberation, and when we did the Monday podcast, the bonus podcast, I told you that I had been told that the Angels are just really torn what they should do with Ohtani. And because Nevin has driven these guys to, they're winning games again. They've won 6 of their last 8.
Nice.
And they've had these spurts. They have bad stretches, but they're so beat up. But anyhow, Arte Moreno said, I'm going all in. Let's keep Ohtani. Let's go outside, make the deals, see what we can get done. And they did. And they turned around, and they were the ones that struck. And it's a bit of a controversial trade. They got Lucas Giolito from the White Sox, who's probably the hottest starter that was on the board. He's a walk free agent in November, but we'll worry about November in November. He can start. He's going to start this weekend in Toronto. Guy has been, I think, a rugged frontline starting pitcher, first with the Jays, then with the Sox, with bad teams around him. Now he's got Ohtani as a teammate. Now, of course, there is no Trout, there is no Rendon, but collectively, these guys are playing really hard. So they get Lucas Giolito, and they get a setup reliever. Reynaldo Lopez had a 1.24 ERA over the past couple of months in Chicago. They give up a double-A catcher. They don't need a catcher. They have a catcher already in Logan O'Hoppe that they really like. And they give up a Class A pitcher who had an ERA of +7. Now, granted, those are really young guys. Those were highly regarded prospects, but that could be 3 or 4 years down the road. They're worried about the next 2 months of the season, so they get Giolito. In addition, keep this in mind, that general manager, that Perry had gone into the marketplace prior and had acquired plug-in guys who've got history. Mike Moustakas, ex-Royal, ex-Red, he's won 3 games for them in 2 weeks with his bat.
Nice.
And they, he's the same guy that made the deal to get the leadoff hitter. Look where Mickey Moniak is and what he's become playing center field for the Halos. Nobody could have expected that. I've been told that they're still talking about pitching. They're talking to Washington about third baseman Jeimer Candelario, who's a walk-free agent, hitting .255 with some power. Talking to the White Sox about setup reliever Joe Kelly, now that they got Giolito. So, I mean, to me, it's absolutely amazing how aggressive the Angels become once the owner decided, I'm all in, we're going to keep Ohtani, and we'll try to sign Ohtani at the end of the season. And by the way, let's see if we can get to the playoffs and play games in October. So that's where are the Halos. Reaction?
It sounds like the Padres. I mean, they're in both cases, both teams have all these big contracts that everyone expected them to win. The owner can't hit the reverse button and undo everything he's done because it'll be a terrible PR move for the fans. And so I think the owner of the Angels, Arte Moreno, and probably the owner of the Padres, Peter Seidler, they've got to just put all their chips on the table. It's interesting.
The only difference is the Halos have been wrecked by injuries. You lose Mike Trout for 8 weeks again, fluke injury with a wrist. Rendon can't stay on the field. 3 injuries this season, 5 injuries in the last 2 years. That looks like a bad investment, but who saw that coming? A guy was a workhorse when he played third base for the Washington Nationals. So the Angels have committed to keep Ohtani, and now we'll see if they can chase down. They're only 4 games out of the wild card spot. They were winning both games of their doubleheader today in Detroit, and then they'll go face the Blue Jays, which that's a series that carries a lot of importance because you don't want to come out of there with a losing streak. And they get a couple wins at Skydome at Rogers Place, then they might be back in the wild card playoff race with Ohtani and now with Giolito to go with Ohtani in the rotation.
And with Mike Trout coming back at some point.
Well, that's 8 weeks, though.
But he's already been on the disabled list for, 3 or 4, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So he's potentially going to come back around September 1st, maybe early September. But imagine if the stars align like that, and all of a sudden Trout can carry them into the playoffs. I mean, it's got a Disney-esque possibility here.
You're playing fan again, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Fanatical. Okay, let's move on.